Good evening, and welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show Post, live streaming on Facebook Live, Twitch, and our Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. It is February 2nd, 2022, 2222. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. Tonight, we will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports. My name is Big Reg. I got a full crew, or almost a full crew this evening. I got my man J3 in the house. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, bro? How you doing? What's up, fellas?
J3, how you doing,
man?
J3?
What's good? Feel blessed to be here. Amen.
Good to see you.
Sense is in the building. What's going on, Sense?
What's good, everybody? Real quick, you want to get a quick laugh? Ask someone from Baltimore what the date is today.
Wow.
I got a 2.
Wow, we going in like that already. Brother Ed is in the building. What's going on, Ed?
Man, look. First of all, it's always good to see you guys. And we got a full house, except for Jay Wells. So I'm definitely excited about that. And I thought this was a boring sports week, and then bam, let's get it. Let's go. Let's do this.
Right back at you.
And last but not least, the professor's in the building. What's going on, Professor? How you doing, brother?
What's up, fellas? I'm feeling good. Happy Tuesday to everybody. It is customary. Praise the Lord, and let's hit these sports.
Let's hit it. So I got a few quick hits for you. Then we got to get into some NFL news. We know the Super Bowl is over, but as long as it's hot news, we got to hit it. Then we got to talk about Michigan and Wisconsin, the scuffle and the fallout from that, which is definitely a little lopsided, but we're going to get into that. NBA AllStar Weekend and other NBA updates. And if the professor has something ready for us, we might have a take this evening, but definitely we'll have our final post. So as always, we appreciate you tuning in. Please sit back, relax, enjoy Post on the Positional Sports Talk Show channel. So real quick, fellas, the Winter Olympics is finally over. We didn't cover it much. We just highlighted a little bit. The U.S. Olympic team finished with a total of 25 medals, the fifth most. 8 were gold, 10 were silver, 7 were bronze. But the ladies really represented and did their due. The ladies accounted for 4 individual golds, 2 team golds, 5 individual silver medals, 1 team silver medal, and 4 individual bronze and 1 team bronze. So the ladies carried the U.S. Olympic team in this Winter Olympics.
Nice.
And a special shout out to Elena Miles-Taylor, who's bobsledding phenom. She's been doing this. This was her 4th Olympics. She became the most decorated Black woman in Winter Olympics history with a total of 5 medals. She got a silver and bronze this Olympics. So shout out to Elena Miles-Taylor. Speaking of the ladies, we got to give the U.S. women's national team, soccer team, much praise. They stuck by their guns. We talked about this maybe a year ago when they were talking about equal pay. We talked about it during the World Cup when they actually were in there winning the World Cup while getting paid a third of what the U.S. men's national team gets paid who didn't even make the World Cup. They finally came to a resolution in their lawsuit for equal pay. ready to move the ball forward. They finally agreed to a total of $24 million of compensation, which $22 million of it is strictly back pay that they owe previous players from playing in that. And then another $2 million is set aside for post-career charitable endeavors for members of the U.S. women's national team. And on top of that, both the men and the women's collective bargaining agreement are up. Part of this negotiation settlement was that the men and women will both be on the same collective bargaining agreement, which basically will pay them the same rate, which means the women will actually probably make more money than the men because they're more successful.
That's awesome.
That's long overdue. That's good news.
No, sure.
Yeah. And that took years and years of fighting. They tried to bury them in legal briefs and different things. They had to go to court and appeal judgments against them. It was just crazy what they had to do just to try to get fair pay after they already won fair compensation for travel. They were traveling in coach while the men were traveling in private planes. They were staying in regular motels while the men were staying in 4- and 5-star hotels. So all that's been rectified because women stood up and said enough's enough.
Amen.
Time.
Amen.
Salute.
About the boxing, we told y'all last week a long past due fight, Kell Brook against Amir Khan finally happened, and it was a waste of 30 minutes. Amir Khan needs to retire.
Yes.
He should have retired as soon as that fight was over. He literally can't take a punch anymore. He was getting hurt by jabs. So Kell Brook stopped Amir Khan in the 6th, and then Kell Brook should retire because if he thinks beating Amir Khan means that he should be fighting some of these old head champions in the welterweight division, or much less these young lions who will knock his head off. He got a new thing coming to him. So y'all made your money.
He's sadly mistaken.
Made your money. They had a big sellout crowd in London. Cash in, go live your lives. But for the fighting fans, this Saturday, the 26th, you got 2 different boxing events happening. On ESPN Plus, you've got the undisputed junior welterweight champion, that man Josh Taylor from over across the pond. He defends all his belts against Jack Catterall. And he says if he wins this fight, which he plans on, he's moving up to the welterweight division after this.
A lot of contenders. A lot of contenders.
It's getting saucy at 147.
Wow.
That's where the money at.
That's where the money is. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And on Showtime, Chris Colbert, who's a young title contender fighter, takes on Hector Luis Garcia in a junior lightweight title eliminator. The winner of that fight will position themselves for possibly a title fight by the end of the year, early next year. But the co-main event is our local boy, Gary Antoine Russell, fights Victor Postal in the co-main event. So, some good fights if you're into boxing. We got some big ones coming up, starting, I believe, end of March, April, so you get some more big boxes because they know if they don't put together these bouts that they can go and continue to lose to the UFC. All right, so that's all we got for the quick hits. I ain't want to give you a whole lot because we got some stuff we got to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the NFL. Shout out to our man, The Rock, and his team who owns the XFL.
Good job, Rock.
He reached an agreement with the NFL to use the new XFL, which is returning in 2023, Spring Football League, to test out new rules for the NFL and equipment and safety procedures for the NFL. So by him collaborating with the NFL, he's now made it abundantly clear he's not trying to compete with them.
Yeah, what's also interesting too, Big Reg and fellas too, is that they made it a point to stop short of saying that this would be a developmental league for the NFL as well. So what are y'all thoughts about that? Do you think it could eventually evolve into that? And now we have sort of like a minor league system for the NFL?
Well, by default, Professor, they already have a minor league league. I mean, that's what college football is all about.
Mhm.
So by default, they have that. And with the NIL situation going on in college football, it's exactly that. But I think this is another opportunity, kind of sort of like that gray area. You'll have players that come from there and end up in the NFL, but then you'll also have, like Big Reg mentioned, which was the name, the objective of the league, I guess. But as far as this agreement is, you're training officials, you're training coaches, you're training, you're testing out things. So, and it's in no conflict with the NFL. In fact, from what I can read, they're actually kind of supporting it because it's easy for the NFL. And we're getting ready to get into a lot of this in a few seconds. It's easy to forget the NFL is like King Kong, and
and Godzilla.
And Godzilla. So I like this. I like this 100%. I'm looking forward to 2023 and see how everything goes.
So do you think black coaches could cut their teeth in the XFL and eventually make it into the NFL?
Well, I think that's an entirely different conversation. Again, we're going to get into that conversation in a couple seconds because the black coaches don't need trained in a minor league situation or format. They don't need that. They're getting trained in the NFL. They're qualified enough to do what they do in the NFL. Right. This narrative about, well, you have to go the offensive coordinator route is malarkey because we have two exquisite Super Bowl winning offensive coordinators who happen to be black.
Can't get a job. So that's just a lie.
But we already know what the problem is.
The bottom line, Professor J, is we can't make these people hire. We can't make someone hire someone that they don't want to hire.
Exactly.
Real quick, I wanted to say to your point, Professor, that I actually see the XFL as being positive, as it can be like what the G League is to the NBA. The XFL could kind of be that, act in that same capacity, as far as like maybe that, rather than going the walk-on route, that person who wasn't drafted, in the draft can, cut his teeth in the XFL. The NFL can take a look at him like, oh, okay, this dude can probably be an asset to our team, and then bring him on.
Mm-hmm. To me, it factors in because the owners will get 18 games eventually. So that means more injuries. So if you have a pot of players that are in that quote unquote gray area, they're not college football players, they're not yet pros, but then you can go feed on that system to bring in a few players to fill roster spots. I think it could eventually be something like that as well.
The question is, how long is it going to last? That's the question. Because the XFL has been in existence a couple times now.
Well, the only reason why it folded last time, remember, was because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It was doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I missed the Defenders, man. We had a good time.
You got the USFL too that's making that
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the significance by Rock and his team getting this allegiance with the NFL. Because the NFL, like Ed said, they the behemoth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You want to be on their side because anytime the NFL can decide they're going to crush you,
they will
and crush you. Mm-hmm. But you an ally, that means they're going to bring financial support to you, bring network support to you, which makes you viable. That's why these other leagues have always failed. The USFL which starts this spring. The XFL doesn't start till next year. Is backed by Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got some deep pockets behind them. There's enough to go around for both of them to survive, and maybe down the road, depending on what happens, you might see a merger of the two. Mm-hmm. The key with the XFL, I don't know if Rock wants to get so deep in the bed with the NFL where he becomes a subsidiary of it. But it would be a lot of money for him.
Oh no, maybe his Super Bowl appearance was a prelude to him getting in bed with the NFL.
Great point.
Mm-hmm.
Great point, because why was Rock in LA?
Exactly.
He's a big superstar, but yeah, that's a great point.
He wanted to model them pants.
I don't know, but when we first saw Jay-Z with the NFL and having that meeting with Roger Goodell, we thought, oh, Jay-Z's here, he's going, make some big moves, and we all saw what happened with that. So
Jay-Z did make big moves.
He
For
was
himself.
behind the
Did you see the
halftime show.
half post? Yeah, you would
Right.
have never seen that halftime show. And Jay-Z is angling himself to become a minority owner of a team. And unfortunately, I don't think he'll ever get enough capital where he can become a majority owner because the values of the teams are getting ready to skyrocket again. But Jay-Z is going to be a major owner of a team down the road. That's what this is all about. It's the long game.
all right.
The NFL also avoided a potential ugly scene at next week's upcoming combine. They sent out a memo saying that they were going to basically lock everything down and make it a real bubble situation for the combine. The problem was they was only allow the athletes one person from their team inside the bubble with them, so they wouldn't have their home training staff, none of the nutritional staff. They said we provide that and all that. These guys have been in training mode since they've gotten out of their seasons at all these elite training camps all over the country. And then you're going to tell them they can't bring their people in for possibly the biggest day of their soon-to-be NFL career.
And remember this, there was no combine last year.
Control.
So they already know, the players already know that,
There you
well,
go, Jay.
I can do a personal workout or a pro day and just skip your little money-making event.
Right.
So
the agents, a few of the big agents kindly sent a letter to the NFL saying, look here, y'all want to do this bubble thing, we're going to send our guys. They will do the medical exams and they'll do the interviews. You will not see them on the field because we're not going to risk our guys getting hurt or not being properly prepared and putting up bad performances. We'll just have them wait till their pro days. Whoa!
But you heard what J3 said. Just say it again, J3. What's it about?
Control.
Right.
It's all about control.
NFL want that control.
And you know what, we talked about this, and this is partially the reason I believe that some of these leagues have failed, particularly these spring leagues that seemingly are not right up against the NFL as far as when they play. The NFL is all about publicity, and they're all about keeping their name relevant. Well, they're so big now that they're starting to get a lot of negative press, and there's people that believe that all press is good press, but I don't know how long this. I don't know if this is sustainable, but we will see.
Cool. And what's up, Damien? Appreciate you joining in and checking us out, my brother. Hope things are good out there in Colorado. I believe that is. Last but not least, we got to shout out the Black and Gold Pittsburgh Steelers, who hired former Miami head coach and current litigant against the NFL, Brian Flores, as a senior NFL coaching assistant / linebackers coach over the weekend. A smart organization took advantage and saw an excellent coach who could help their team out and had a strong enough head coach who's not going to be threatened by him coming into the fold. So shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Real quick on that, I have a special announcement to make. After giving it some long thought, this was a hard decision, but I've decided to take my fandom to Pittsburgh.
Man, this is love. Hey, anything you need, you let me know. I got you. What? What size shirt you wear?
He put it on. Oh my goodness!
Snyder has let me down for way too long. The fire's coming in on that team. The Commanders. I don't want to be around.
You know this being recorded, right? You all right with that?
I'm fine with it.
Hey, welcome to the club, brother. Since it only took a year and a half or so.
It was a long, torturous relationship, but I finally broke free. I'm taking my talents to Pittsburgh.
I'm trying to get the other two on this to let that fandom go. I know it's been ingrained since they've been little kids, but you gotta let that fandom go. As long as that man is still running his team,
I can't.
All the continuing allegations keep adding up and adding up and adding up. And there's the biggest Washington Commanders fan that I know. Hey, Mama Marshall, but it's okay. You can still root for the players, but not the team.
I don't like
You
Snyder.
gotta let it go.
Let me say this. You said a key word. You said smart, intelligent organizations. And when teams like the Steelers, they make moves, they do it and it reverberates through the whole NFL. I like the move. I'm not going to do what Sense did, but respect to the Steelers. And y'all know my story behind while I rock this hat is from my cousin Andrew that passed away a few years ago. But the Steelers do things in the proper order and manner in which they're supposed to be done. We understand the Rooney Rule. It wasn't just something that they put out there just for the NFL to use. They actually put their money where their mouth is. And for them to now then bring in an embattled coach, a coach that's embroidered in
Thank you, Mom.
or embroiled in controversy, I think that says a lot because we need to move the NFL forward. And all franchises that are on board with doing that, those are the teams that I wanna root for. Now, if they can just get Malik Willis, we'll be good.
Well, we definitely gonna start breaking down the draft sometime next month and all that. So, Steeler fan,
I'm
the
so,
oldest Steeler fan.
Yeah, I was so proud of this move. And I have so many different thoughts and ideas, but I will just say it's just a couple things about this particular move. Number one, we always talk about it, and it rang true, how life, like sports imitates life and vice versa. But how many times the first thing I thought about is it too late to change? Because we had just hired a defensive coordinator, and now we bring on Flores, who and like I said, this is the part I'm talking about where life imitates sports and vice versa. How many times have we walked into a place of employment and we've seen people that was far more qualified than the person actually running the show, but they have to take a back seat for whatever reason? But this is a situation like that. But I'm just so proud of Tomlin, and I'm so proud of the Rooneys that they ignored the outside noise. And because let's make something clear. There's very few franchises that can just walk to their own beat, but they have a history of being team oriented, meaning not just the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm talking about the entire league. When the AFC, when it was merger time, and it was the AFL and the NFL, when it was time to merge, Pittsburgh volunteered to go to the AFC. They didn't have to go to the AFC. They were part of the NFL, the old guard. But they was like, no, let's do this for the bigger picture. Just like with revenue sharing, Pittsburgh is one of the most recognized franchises in the world as far as the NFL is concerned, and possibly sports teams. But yet they came up with the concept of, no, revenue sharing is the best way moving forward to grow our league. So I'm just so proud of Mike Tomlin, and I've been a critic of Mike Tomlin in the past because of some of the X's and O's. But as far as the business and the getting and understanding the bigger picture, he gets it, as do the Rooney. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. So again, shout out Steelers, class personified,
black and yellow.
Well said.
Showing that they are not going to be moved by what's out there, and they're not going to let a good man get his name soiled and bring him into the fold and let him do his thing.
They keep setting the standard, man. The Rooney's class personified, man.
What about the Mars?
And
Yeah, we gonna leave that alone. That's a whole subject for another day. That's a subject for another day. When we talk about the Giants, I'm gonna get in on them. So, all right, now we gotta bring the show back down a little bit. Michigan, Wisconsin. I know all of y'all have seen the situation that happened this past Sunday. What are your thoughts, first of all, on the end of game perceived slights by both coaches? Because you have Juwan, who was pissed off because the Wisconsin coach called the timeout with only 14 seconds left. And the Wisconsin coach was saying, well, you were pressing, and y'all down 14 with 14 seconds left. Why y'all pressing? So that's the first thing. And then y'all can get into what y'all thought happened with the handshake line, and then we'll get into the suspensions next.
Well, as the resident Michigan fan, I'll speak first. I think. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that I condone Juwan's actions. I think it was very kind of like ill timed on his part. Not the way I like. You're salty. He's salty for a multitude of reasons. Salty because they're at the stage where they are now, when everyone touted them as being top 10. Salty because they lost the game in the fashion that they did, and salty because Greg Gard pulled a pretty much petty move. Like, why you want to call a timeout? With 15 seconds left. Do that like in practice a few days after. Don't do that like during the game. I think he was definitely at fault for even like if a coach don't want to shake your hand, just let him just go on by. Even if he gives you like the little lame duck handshake, like yeah, whatever, good game. Don't like try to stop it, especially don't put your hands on him and be like, well, no, you stay and let me explain to you. Like, Juwan wasn't trying to hear that. It was a bad move on Juwan's part, but Greg Gard's, not he's not without fault, and we don't know what the assistant coach said, because Juwan's not going to just go and reach over two people, mind you, and smack somebody in the face if he didn't say it. Unless dude said something slick, which I'm pretty sure he did.
I'll tell you what he did, if no one else says what the assistant did.
Okay, so to speak on what you said, dealing with the timeout in the pressing situation, that's called gamesmanship. Mm-hmm. I'm all for gamesmanship, whether you agree with it or not, but you leave it in between the lines. Now, after the game, however you're feeling about the situations that happened, because clearly both men had something that they wanted to say to each other, I'm in agreement with some of the folks that spoke on it during the week that the handshake line needs to really go away. And if you're going to do it at the beginning of a game when emotions are all even. But at the end of the game, especially if you lose in that fashion and there's some controversy, players are feeling a certain way, coaches are feeling a certain way. So sometimes it's better to read the room and just say, this is not a necessary part of our game. Just like in the NBA, if you want to stick around and dap up and talk, you good. If you walking off the floor, then do that. In this situation, when somebody impedes your path, when you don't want anything to do with them, you're immediately going into a different mindset. I don't care who you are, because one, you put your hand on me. Two, I didn't want to talk to you in the first place, which is the reason why it took a long time to even get in the handshake line. But then you wanted to make your point and you did it in the wrong fashion. So that to me escalated the situation where I feel like both coaches should have got suspensions for what transpired after that, because cooler heads did not prevail in that situation. Juwan Howard, under no circumstances would I condone what he did, because you're supposed to be a leader of student athletes. In this case, you're a leader of men, because these are men that you have on your team that are following you, looking at you not only as an NBA legend, as a Michigan legend, but as a father figure. You have to do something different in that moment, because you put them in a situation where they got into it and started throwing blows because they got to defend Michigan. They got to defend their coach. They got to defend their honor. Had that never taken place, then we just have a semi-ugly exchange between two coaches who said what they needed to, and then they just went about their business. But I think that the suspension was warranted. He's lucky we're not talking about a firing, right? But I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, good. Go ahead, J3. You got your face all wrinkled up.
So I'm just wondering, is shaking the hand part of the game? And is that considered tradition in any sport, or
it's
at least
more
in basketball?
Tradition. It's more so tradition.
Yeah. Right. So whether you win or lose, like you said, Professor J, you still representing who you are, your team, and your family. And so for him to show out like he did, I did have respect for him, but after that, to me, that was a little punk move for real.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna tell you why he did it. It's nobody said why he did it.
Well, I'm not going to say why he did it, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. But all I'm saying is, in that moment, it's optics. Like, you have to. Juwan Howard has to be above the fray, so to speak. And unfortunately, African American coaches have to go above and beyond. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I think that's what we have to do. But I think that in order to maintain these professions, and be an example, and as you mentioned, Professor J, you are the leader of that university. You cannot let this happen. Under no circumstances should a punch be thrown, unless there are certain trigger points that there are certain trigger points that I can see where your emotions may be able to take over, but you have to, whatever you have to do internally, you have to fight through that, because you cannot, under any circumstances, as a coach, head coach, or a coach, you should not put yourself or your students in that position. It's just wrong. And like you said, I'm surprised it was just a suspension.
Yeah, and especially in real quick, Big Rich, I forgot the other indictment on Juwan Howard. This is really not his first offense. If you go back to his interaction with the coach from Maryland last year, Mark Turgeon, and they got into a war of words, even like pushing and shoving, and Juwan Howard was quoted saying, "I'll effing kill you."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. All right. So first and foremost, before I get into why what happened, Juwan Howard should have never hit the guy. And he deserves a suspension for that. So I want to be up front and put that up front.
Agreed.
But sometimes it's not a reason, but I can tell you how it happened. Again, Juwan was blowing by the other coach. He pulled his mask away and said, "I'll remember that." That's all he said, and was going to move. This guy grabs Juwan's arm to stop him. You can hear Juwan multiple times, "Take your hands off me." Then after Juwan pushes his hands off of him, and Juwan grabbed him by the shirt, then he realized, "No, I'm not going to do that." Then the guy puts his forearm in Juwan's stomach to impede him from moving. Because with his coaching, and I'm going to say it, white privileged self, I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you, and you're going to stand here and listen. But it broken up. The situation had pretty much calmed down until this white assistant coach from Wisconsin, if you look at the tape again, he was in the back, pushed his way to the front, and then started pushing Michigan players.
Yes.
That's what true. And if you watch real close, you'll see Juwan, when he smacked him, "Don't touch my players."
Yeah, don't touch my boys. Yeah.
Here's a guy that was behind. He was 3 rows behind, pushed himself to the front of the melee, and then started pushing and grabbing Michigan players. You have no business pushing another team's players.
Well, that's true.
And yet he doesn't get any type of reprimand. So let's talk about the suspension.
Double standard.
Juwan gets a 5-game suspension, and part of that 5-game suspension was he threw a blow, slap. I think he was going to punch the guy, and he realized as it was coming down, I better open up my hand, or I'm definitely going to lose my job if I punch this guy in the face full force. So he ended up slapping the guy, which is real disrespectful. So, like a couple of y'all said, I'm glad he didn't lose his job for that, because I thought they was going to go overboard, especially because of that Maryland incident. He's the angry black man, and he can't be in charge of people.
So
Go ahead.
Is there not an appeal process for this to say, okay, I get my punishment, but what about what these individuals did to escalate the situation?
Go ahead, Ed.
I think in a situation like that, Michigan, the administrators at Michigan or the Big Ten Conference, they can't control what someone else did or someone else said. As far as Michigan is concerned, Michigan has to take care of Michigan, and I think the 5-game suspension is pretty appropriate, even though, like Big Reg mentioned, that I didn't realize that, but even though that you're going to want to defend or protect, let's say protect your flock. Yeah. So yeah.
And unfortunately, go ahead. I'm sorry.
He could probably appeal this to the Big Ten, but at what cost?
Right.
Yeah, that's my point. Because keep in mind, you got boosters who are giving Michigan money who probably felt like Juwan should have got fired for that.
Oh, they talked about firing him.
Yeah.
They had meetings talking about firing him. So he's taking the medicine. And he got a $40,000 fine.
Juwan's rich anyway. He was rich.
I was about to say, he just signed a 5-year deal with Michigan, didn't he?
No, I'm talking about
before he started
got there.
I mean,
remember that deal he got from the Wizards?
But what really pissed me off was Wisconsin's coach, guard, didn't get suspended when he started the confrontation, because if he had never put his hands on Juwan, none of this would have happened.
No, he got a 1-game suspension.
No, he did not get suspended at all.
He got a
$10,000 fine.
Although they said he got, I thought
he got a $10,000 fine. And then the AD of Wisconsin, in his remarks about the fine, said, we take this as a Wisconsin fine because our people didn't do anything, so Wisconsin's going to pay this fine.
White privilege. Yeah. All day long.
And the guy who was putting his hands on another team's players didn't get any fine or any suspension.
See, that's my point.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
This is America.
Yep.
This is America. But Juwan's got to eat it. He had to make a statement. You ain't seen a statement from the Wisconsin coach yet.
No, even in his post-game comments, he was arrogant, talking about, Juwan should know the rules. And
Yeah. Yeah, trying to buoy him. Just like he was trying to do in the line. So, yeah. So, long story short, the Big Ten got this wrong, in my opinion. Guard should have got suspended. If you only gave him a 1-game suspension, I'd have been fine. But you should have suspended him because he initiated all the stuff that happened.
My concern is what happens next with the players, because players were involved in the fight.
3 players got suspended the game, 2 Michigan players and 1 Wisconsin player for throwing punches.
That's going to hurt their chances for trying to get to the tournament.
And that's my issue right there.
Because they were already on the bubble. They were already on the bubble. So, I mean.
So,
consequences.
Yeah. It happens.
Yep. That's why Juwan should have restrained himself.
Yeah. The best thing, but as a black man, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And gotten to that point. And then when somebody grab you, you already mad.
Yeah, get off me.
And then you see somebody physically putting their hands on your children, because that's what his team is. Those are his kids.
Well, you can still make criminal proceedings. You can press charges. It's on tape.
I hear you. At that point, he was here. Not saying it was right, but he was here. And he decided
that's what I'm saying. In those situations, we got to know what's at stake.
I feel you.
So is this just a isolated incident, and it has no impact on future hiring of coaches and et cetera?
Oh,
time will tell.
Come on, man.
You
joking, right? You joking,
I'm just asking. We rapping. We talking.
Time will tell.
You know, everything one of us does as an individual impacts the whole of us. You know that.
Yeah, we got coaches in the Hall of Fame who's been known for throwing chairs and choking folks.
Exactly.
Ex-athletes coming back to be coaches. You know they go after them anyway. You got Hardaway catching hell down in Memphis.
Yep.
Because he's trying to put a program together. So they're going to attack him anyway. So this year. And Juwan's got to be on his P's and Q's for at least another decade. If anything else happens, he's done.
Yeah.
Look how they villainized Cheney, and your boy Knight was choking players out since the
I just
beginning
said
of the
that.
game.
Yeah, Bob Knight was choking players, throwing chairs, all
Throwing chairs.
They did the same to John Thompson, trying to
Prime
be the big
time.
black man.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how they do it. So, all right, let's talk about this NBA, man.
No,
Fellas, they got to do something about AllStar Weekend. Because
Ooh.
Let me tell you.
well, hey, let's before we get into the bad. What was great about the end? What was great? Because there was some greatness. Let's highlight the great.
The game,
the fourth quarter of the game.
The 3
I think
point
I think the new format that they finally came out with the game, where each quarter they're playing for money to go to a charity.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes them play at the end of each quarter. And then at the end of the fourth quarter, using the Elam ending, which there's no time, we playing to a score like you used to play on the blacktop.
Mm-hmm.
All that helps the game. And the game was crazy. Steph Curry put on the show.
He sure did.
16 threes.
He blacked out for a second. When he shot that one in Trey's face and turned around after he shot in front of the logo and just
Like, I know that's
down.
good. I know that's good.
So here's my I was forced to watch the NBA weekend, which is crazy. I was almost, but I'm glad I did because I'll come back. I thought that HBCU Classic was phenomenal.
Perfect.
It was
Yes.
Thank you.
Not only was it a good gesture, but it was a good game.
Yeah.
Morgan should have won, but I'm not being biased, but Morgan should have won
On a huge platform.
but it was a great game and it was well attended. I thought the skills competition, I think there's really room for the skills competition because I honestly like that too.
Just take the Antetokounmpos out of it.
It's
just Giannis. I mean,
we can tweak the participants. And I also thought I was more excited about the 3-point contest. Honestly.
Me too.
The
Big
dunk
Cat
contest.
winning it.
Big Cat winning it.
That's a surprise.
Big man. First big man to win it.
Yeah.
Not really, but go ahead.
Well, traditional big man.
Traditional big man.
Let's go
Dirk
there.
won it, right?
Dirk won it.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Bird was a forward, a big
Like 6'9",
power forward.
Okay. First traditional.
But they have to do something with the dunk contest.
Ooh.
But other than that, I
Yes,
swear
sir.
it was and
Let
then
it go.
Steph, right, and then Steph going all. I think that was it was fun. The game itself was fun, but
Let me get to the ugly now.
Did you hear John Morant's comments about the dunk contest?
The rim ain't high enough. The rim ain't high enough.
It wasn't.
He
the
said he
rim.
ain't doing
said
it.
The stakes ain't high.
The
enough.
stakes
Right. They got to give
let
something
me
as
touch
a
on
real
that.
incentives.
Let me touch on that. And I want to touch on the ugly, which is the dunk contest. See, a lot of people have been avoiding it. Skip Bayless tried to make a slight at LeBron saying, well, that's why he's not to go because he never participated in a dunk contest. I mean, like, these players are like, for what? I mean, what's the advantage that I have in like participating in this? I could risk getting injured, but here's my way of fixing it. Money talks. Maybe give them like some prize money, like winner gets $1 million.
they make 40.
That ain't gonna talk to them versus risk their
Or
image and aura.
Yeah. Or as Stephen A mentioned in yesterday actually on First Take, get these, like, you got dudes on blacktops and parks on the street that like are dunking out of this world. You see these viral videos.
Yeah.
Get them in there and get like a player to sponsor them, saying, yo, my dude can like
that's
Yeah. I didn't like that for one
is it-
reason. I don't
is
want
it-
them to sponsor them. I want them to compete against them.
But isn't the
No.
purpose of the NBA
No.
All-Star for you to show the stars in the NBA?
Right. That's why I
So
say
that's not going to work.
But stars are not going to participate right now unless you give them some incentive to. Ja ain't going to do it. LeBron's now old. He's not going to do it. Miles Bridges. I mean,
It's not enough incentive because people can get on their phone anytime and look up dunks and find people all around the world doing crazy dunks that an NBA athlete will not try to do because it's too
Exactly.
risky because they might get hurt.
So that latter part is my way of making the dunk contest relevant again. Like, bring dudes who want to dunk, who want to compete, give them the prize money, but have the NBA player not sponsor financially, but sponsor them like, yo, like this, compete against one another.
TV timeout. So the individuals that are in the dunk contest, are they volunteering to dunk, or were they chosen to dunk, or were they told to dunk?
Volunteered.
Again, so that means that they're part of the NBA, and this is something that they want to do. Obviously, they're not. They're either their skill set or their imagination is not broad enough for them to have exciting dunks.
Now,
well, they said they were trying stuff.
In order to do the dunks that people see on their phones, these guys spend hours and hours and hours practicing that. When you playing in the NBA team, you ain't got time to do that. That's not. And personally, you got the coaches saying, we don't want you doing any crazy, stupid dunks during the game. You do that, I'm pulling you out the game.
Exactly. Understand. So again, the individuals that are participating in the dunk contest, is it voluntary? Were they told to do this, or is it something that they were selected for? If they volunteer to do it, then that's their opportunity to shine. If they don't want to do nothing extraordinary, don't be a part of it.
In their defense, they were trying stuff like, okay, how many people have seen that? I guess J.R. Ryder first coined it as the East Bay Funk dunk, where you go through the legs. How many players since then did that? Like, folks that wanted to see something new. So that kind of put, in my opinion, the pressure on these recent participants. Be like, let me try something no one's ever seen before, and it worked to their detriment. Unfortunately,
and that's why it's going into the realm of impossibilities now, because we've seen all these dunks, all these gimmicky things that could get a player hurt. That, to Big Reg's point, that's why they trying to stay away from that, and the reason why you won't get the big time stars to do it anymore, because the dunk contest is just kind of stale. I mean, we've seen it for 35 years. I mean, it's what else can you do?
The only way to survive, only way you're gonna keep this alive is to have it at AllStar Weekend and have non-NBA people. You bring the best dunkers from around the world. It can still be the NBA dunk contest. And then you put $1 million up to these guys, which will be huge money.
Yes.
For the best dunkers in the world. You can have dunk-offs across the country leading up to the NBA All-Star game. It could be a huge money maker for the NBA.
Choose the top five or top, 7.
Yeah.
That sounds like too much like right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and someone touched on it. It doesn't even just have to be limited to the U.S. because this is a world sport, literally.
Do it around the world. Yeah.
Bring them in.
Yeah. So we said Steph went crazy in the actual All-Star game, hit 16 3-pointers, ended up with 50 points. He tried to break the record of 52. Couldn't. They played a little more D in that fourth quarter. He knocked down the last 3 shots. And then your boy LeBron, storybook, fade away on the corner on his former home court to end the game. So it couldn't have ended any better. And LeBron's I Promise scholarship with Akron University got $450,000 for Team LeBron winning. LeBron's been the captain 5 times since this new format's hit. He's never lost.
5-0.
And he gave a shout out to Cleveland. Said the door ain't closed to come back.
He was in Cleveland a little too much. I ain't like that.
He mad with the Lakers right now. Yeah, you got to understand why. Well, I know you do, but
he been roasting them, especially their GM.
Yeah. Hey, Magic tried to tell him, don't trust Pelinka.
Yeah. Bubba Dub, trash.
But you know why Pelinka stayed as long as he did. Real quick, he played that Kobe. He had the Kobe card, but that Kobe card is expiring now. So
but Jeannie loved Kobe. That was her little brother. So Rob's still all right because Jeannie's still on it. So we will see. We got to talk about the bad news of the week. Chris Paul, they announced at All-Star, has a fracture in his right thumb on his shooting hand. He's going to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. They said 6 to 8 weeks, and then they're going to reevaluate. So that means he's going to miss the rest of the season and possibly the first week of the playoffs or more. So what do y'all think the loss of Chris Paul's going to do for the Suns, who are currently the number 1 seed, not only in the West but in the league.
They might drop to 3 because if Golden State surges up, and then Memphis trumps Phoenix, Memphis gets that number 2 spot.
I think if this was Chris Paul's first year in Phoenix, it would have a bigger impact. But I think because Phoenix went deep in the playoffs with this current team, I think they can withstand the last couple weeks of or a few months of the NBA season without Chris Paul. And really, it's actually a somewhat benefit, so he can rest a little bit, get healthy and ready for the playoffs. He is an older point guard. Doesn't play like it, hasn't been playing like it, but he is a little older. And I think that the young guns that Phoenix has, they can, like I said, they can withstand, because usually the last couple weeks of the regular season, it's kind of like they're kind of like on like chill mode anyway. If at
the
least
bottom feeders are trying to rise up rather
right
than the top. Yeah.
So I think they'll be okay. Whether or not they can hold on to the 1 seed, that might be tricky.
They're currently 6. They're currently 6.5 up on the Warriors and 8 games up on the Grizzlies and 12 up on the Jazz. I don't think they drop any lower than 3. I don't even see them. Yeah, I don't even think they're gonna drop to 3. They got 24 games left. I think they go at least.
Who's their backup point?
It's Campaign.
But he's out, ain't he?
He's out, but I think they say he's close to being back.
Okay.
I mean, if need be, the scoring machine,
Devin Booker
will run point.
Okay.
So
move Mikal to the 2.
Yeah, they got a lot of bodies, so it'll be interesting.
And think about it.
And he's gonna go do a couple of State Farm commercials while he's out, and as long as he come back and he's good, they're not gonna fall lower than 3, like y'all said, and they're gonna serve notice to who's ever trying to do something in that first round.
And if they're 6.5 up on Golden State is a mature team, so they're not trying to chase victories. They're just trying to maintain their health and slide into the playoffs and then do damage once they get there. So that team, I don't think they're going to be chasing. Now Memphis with them young dudes,
they young and hungry. Memphis is young and hungry.
That might be a little different. So I see where you say since the worst they do is 3, but I just don't see them falling if they're already 6 up. Like I said, everybody on that team has been deep in the playoffs. They know the assignment, so they should be good.
And they got a hell of a coach, so they're gonna make the adjustment.
Monty, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Up on the East side, the East is crazy, fellas. Right now, you got Miami and Chicago tied for the top of the East at 38-21. They're only 2.5 games up on the 76ers, Cavs, and Bucks. And only 4.5 up on the Celtics, the now hot Celtics, who in the beginning of the year was playing like trash. And finally, their coach got on them in public and said they was playing soft. They started playing a little better. Then they made the trade with San Antonio.
Derek White and them 2 J's, Jalen and Jason.
They playing some good basketball. And the Raptors are slowly out there on the periphery doing some things. So who y'all like for these last 23 to 26 games coming out of the East as the number 1 seed?
If Miami holds on now with this addition of Goran Dragic to Brooklyn. Yeah. Now, Brooklyn got a long way to go because they're still in the 8th spot. So,
but they got a lot of talent on that team. Goodness gracious,
they are deep. So
gracious.
I can't rule out Brooklyn, but I say Miami. If Miami holds on, plays good ball, but my dark horse really is Toronto because I like Scotty Barnes. I really like what he's doing.
I like Chicago, but over the weekend, I had to stand up and start paying more attention to this team that LeBron no longer plays for. Cleveland, I don't know what they did. These last 3 drafts, 3 drafts. They've done because when they drafted Garland, everybody was like, why are they drafting him? They already have Sexton. And they drafted him anyway.
Yep.
I'm telling you, Cleveland, they look good, man. They look good.
Yeah,
But I'm still sticking with Chicago.
Young and hungry. They're young and hungry.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with Chicago, and they're long.
Yeah.
They're long.
And they got good coaching.
Cleveland is the East version of the Grizzlies in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A young team, hungry, and they just balling. But I like Chicago. A lot of people, Chicago's got the best duo scoring in the NBA.
For now.
They've been doing this for the whole season. We 3/4 done through the season. And they got two guys averaging over 25 points a game.
Don't sleep on
I know what Professor gonna say.
Yeah, I know what he's gonna say too.
We ain't giving the Bucks no respect.
Right.
Go ahead.
Milwaukee not trying to get the number 1 seed. Milwaukee said, we see y'all in the playoffs.
Yeah, he didn't ask you who we think was going to win.
Yeah, that's two different questions. Two entirely different questions. Who trying to get the number 1 seed? Giannis and the boys like, we'll see y'all in the playoffs. We're going to be top 4, and we're going to be hell to deal with.
So what you think the 76ers going to do?
Nothing.
To be determined.
Do you think the addition of Harden is going to help them go
They ain't
further?
got enough help. They don't have enough help. Like, I mean, you let go basically your entire team.
Harden is a loser.
You let Seth Curry, your secret weapon is Seth Curry, you let go to
Agreed.
Brooklyn.
Facts.
That's why I can't even rule out Brooklyn.
Okay,
Facts.
I'll answer the question.
Facts.
I'm going Chicago on this one. But you all did read my mind, though. I'll just say.
we saw that look in your eye.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Still got your jersey on. We know.
76ers, Harden has to capitulate to Embiid. And then they still got to figure out how to play together. Because Embiid doesn't like ball-dominant guards because he wants to get the ball up top sometimes, down low. He wants to dribble it a little bit. So it's going to be tough for them. Just like it's going to take Brooklyn a little bit to integrate all their new players. But they've already started doing that. And it's real easy to integrate a defensive guy who doesn't really like to shoot a lot anyway versus an offensive guy.
Seth Curry.
Yeah.
So now you ain't even got to worry
The
about
only thing with Brooklyn is they have two separate teams. They have a home team and then they have a away team. And that in the playoffs, that might be a little. I can see that being a problem. But I mean, yeah, they're not going to be the number 1 seed anyway. So that's
you can definitely see though the mayor of New York is getting some pressure to lift that band.
Yeah, even from the commission.
Yeah, he's getting some pressure to lift that band. So I wouldn't be surprised within the next month, which would be by the end of March, right before the start of the NBA season, that New York lifts that ban unless we get another surge. Because basically the state of New York, all around New York City, is lifting it.
California's lifting it. Yeah.
I mean, if you looked at the Super Bowl, if you looked at the All-Star game, if you walk out, if you go to any mall, any
event, you got Coachella.
It's over. You know.
Yeah, they act like it doesn't exist. So
I think I'm the only one to wear a mask.
Me too.
So we got 3 Chicagos,
1 Miami.
And who you saying, J3?
Still going with Boston, bro.
Okay.
Ooh.
They hot.
Still going with Boston.
They are hot.
All right, we getting near the end of the time, so we're going to spare the professor this week. Professor, whatever you have, if you have something, please keep it. We'd love to hear it next week. But we're going to jump right into the post-take since it's getting a little late. We want to get y'all out here at a reasonable hour. J3, why don't you hit us?
So real quick, I want to give a shout out to one of the bowlers that I bowled with on Wednesday nights for shooting a straight 300. Mr. Kelly, good job.
Wow.
That's what's up.
Dude.
That's real, especially that last ball. That 14 to 16 pound ball get real heavy on that last ball. When you try to throw 300.
He was in the zone.
I hear you. Since, what you got for us?
I just want to highlight again the All-Star Weekend and in particular the love that was shown amongst the top 75. A bittersweet moment that Kobe wasn't there. Would have been great for him to interact. It was some funny parts too. Ray Allen kind of smoozing past Kevin Garnett when they called him up there, and most importantly, LeBron and MJ like embracing and seeing that love shown there. So,
Ed, you up, partner?
Hey, I just want everyone to continue to be safe and diligent. And like we were just mentioning a few seconds ago, it's seemingly you go out in public or you look around and the guards are down. I think people are tired of this COVID situation that we've been in seemingly for 2+ years now. So just stay safe.
Good point, Professor.
So we all know the calendar and what time of year this is. And even though I get a little irritated because Black History gets the shortest month of the year, this is our last week of Black History. So I really want to implore you guys to go out and learn some little known facts about this great people called Black or African Americans that have done such a wonderful job at building and sustaining and leading this country. I don't care what you heard. Study the real history in the history books. So next week, because I do this 365, the calendar will say March, but the post takes I had for you tonight will cover some Black history in sports. And we want to celebrate and salute all of those that have paved the way for the legends that we see today. The legends of the past paved that way and they're standing on their shoulders. So learn some Black history. Know who you are. It's important to understand why we fight this fight and do the things that we do.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. We're on a similar wavelength. Two things from me tonight. First, again, shout out to the NBA first annual HBCU Classic, actually having the basketball game through HBCUs at the NBA All-Star event. And they didn't put it at the arena that they do the celebrity game. It was on the floor of the All-Star game. Mm-hmm. So shout out, they put their money and their platform behind HBCUs. On the same note, this weekend, many people may not have known, we had the first annual HBCU Legacy Bowl, which is a all-star game of rising seniors, football players for HBCU. Thanks to should-be Hall of Famer Doug Williams and Shaq Thompson, former NFL quarterback, two NFL quarterbacks that came together and said, y'all been talking about this for years. We're going to use our influence, put some of our money behind it, and get other people to put money behind it. They held that Saturday as well. That was in Louisiana, in New Orleans. So we had two huge HBCU events happening this week, and ESPN and the NFL Network both put their money and their actual platforms behind it to broadcast those. So shout out to both of those things. And in the same sense as Professor J, I want to end our last show of Black History Month going into Women's Month next week by telling y'all a little bit about a living legend who currently is at the top of her game, who's been doing it for decades now and needs to get some shine. Y'all have heard us talk about the great Dawn Staley, but let me give y'all a little bit more detail. Dawn Staley, Philadelphia's own, graduated out of Dobbins Tech, went to the University of Virginia. This is a shy, introverted young lady coming out of tough streets in Philly, goes to UVA, one of the top non-Ivy League schools in the country, graduates in 4 years, takes UVA to the NCAA tournament all 4 years, takes them to the Final Four 3 of the 4 years, makes it to the championship 1 year, was the 2-time All-American, National Player of the Year her last 2 years at UVA. Leaves UVA, gets drafted into what was the competing league to the WNBA, the ABL, because there was actually 2 professional women's basketball leagues when she came out. That folded in 2 years. Then she ended up playing for the Charlotte Sting and then the Houston Comets. Dawn Staley was the first player, while actively playing in the WNBA, became the head coach of a college university when she went back home to her hometown of Philadelphia and became the head women's basketball coach at the University of Temple because one of her mentors, Don Chaney, said, we need you. We need you to come home and help save this program. So she had a full-time job. She also was playing overseas, stopped playing overseas to be a full-time coach while playing in the WNBA for her last 3 years of her career. Stupendous. Then she finally gets the opportunity after coaching at Temple for 8 years. She gets the call to the major leagues, University of South Carolina. Now, when I tell you University of South Carolina was an afterthought in women's basketball, that's even an understatement. Mm-hmm. They were averaging 200 to 300 people in the stands. Mm. She physically had to go throughout the campus and the city to recruit people to come watch her girls play. And from 2008 to present, she has built the preeminent women's basketball program in basketball today, currently surpassing the University of Connecticut, which is the GOAT of all GOATs. Mm-hmm. She's had the top recruiting class 2 out of the last 3 years. So her current freshman class is the top recruiting class in the country, and her current junior class is the top recruiting class in the country. She won a national championship with the great Asia, and now she has another All-American playing with her. Dawn Staley is a living legend, and she became the second African-American head coach, female head coach, to win a national championship, joining Carolyn Peck. And besides all of that, she's the champion of women coaches in the NCAA. When she won her national championship, she sent a piece of the net from her national championship title game to every black head coach in the country and told them, you can do it too. She is the leader of the Black Women's Head Coaching Society, and they get on monthly Zooms, and she is the leader of that group. She put it together. So living legend Dawn Staley not only is excellence personified on the court, off the court, but she is living black history and one of the great that's ever done it in basketball. And of course, she's a Hall of Famer.
Here, here.
Drop that drop.
Yep.
So on that note, we look forward to hearing Professor's Black History Month takes next week. I'm sorry I had to cut that off. I knew mine was going to run a little long. So if I'd have known that, I'd have shortened mine up. But we're going to get that next week for sure. Good. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. We appreciate your time and opportunity to share our positions on sports with you. We're here each and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our live show. If for any reason you can't make the live show, you can also download any of our previous shows on our Facebook page or YouTube page, Positions on Sports Talk Show. If you prefer doing podcasts, check out your whatever podcast platform you're on. Just put in the name of the show, Positions on Sports Talk Show. You can find us there. We'd love to hear from you. You can hit us up on Facebook. You can hit us up on Twitter at Positions on SPO1. We'd love to hear from you. Any feedback is great. We want to make the show better and bigger each and every year. Again, please be safe. While restrictions are being lessened all around you, we're still in a pandemic, and we want you around to hear us next week. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next Tuesday. Peace.